Hello, welcome to episode 7 of Betty Draper Sucks. I'm Dave, one of your hosts. My other co-host is Cameron. How's it going?
Going pretty good. Going pretty very good, Dave. How about hey, baby? How's it going yourself?
Yep, it's going well. Thank you for that little bit of speaking in tongues there.
No problem.
This week we're covering our usual shows. We're covering Mad Men. We're covering Game of Thrones. We've got a Veep episode. We've got a Girls episode. But first and foremost...
2 episodes of Parks.
Oh, yeah, 2. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because we're both up to date on the latest one. But that's the main thing we want to talk about is Parks and Rec and NBC and Community and 30 Rock and the situation with the shows being renewed for one more season. So Parks and Rec's season 5, Community's season 4, and 30 Rock's season 7, which is obviously good news. But the good news is overshadowed a good deal by the bad news of them being cancelled after that.
Remember that this is just a rumor, but the fact that NBC has picked up half a dozen new shows lends to the fact that this is most likely true, and it really, really pisses me off.
It's just a rumor? I thought it was actually announced.
It has not been officially announced. This is going to be announced next week, but
okay.
It was reported in the New York press. So this is like a 99% deal. These shows will 99% have their last seasons. They're going to be shortened seasons, and they will be canceled afterwards because NBC has picked up a bunch of new shit. Basically, fuck NBC.
Yeah. When they say cancelled, they're probably going to be, I say, 16 episodes maybe, because Parks and Rec season 3 was 16 episodes, and that was what they termed it, a shortened season, so I think it'd probably be 16.
Parks and Rec season 3 was 18.
Maybe you're right, I'm not sure.
It might have been 16, though. I can do a quick look on that.
Yeah, it was 16.
Did you see? Did you look?
Yeah, I just had to look at my DVD, which is sitting on the shelf and not at my hard drive.
DVD? You purchased a SD version of a TV show, huh? Just to watch? That's pretty shitty.
Yeah.
I saw the season 1 or 2 of Parks and Rec for $20 at Walmart the other day, but I scoffed because it was SD, and SD is shit tier.
$20.
Disgusting. So
if it was season 1, that's pretty disgusking. $20 for 6 episodes is a lot of money.
Do they have? They probably combined season 1 and season 2 in one DVD, right? Anyway, fuck that. Let's not talk about this. We got to talk about how shitty NBC is and what's happening with TV.
The problem is, I mean, it's not that people don't like the shows. It's just that the people that watch them don't buy stuff that the people that the people that watch the other shows do. That's the main problem, because shows are sold on how well they're advertised to people.
The main problem is nobody really watches the shows. The ratings for Parks are shitty, and that's the main reason it's not getting picked up. I mean, it is going to be picked up for a shortened final season, but that's the main reason. It's critically acclaimed, and NBC's enjoying the fact that Parks and Community and 30 Rock have been critically acclaimed, but not exactly, watched by droves of people. But, there's no reason to drop these shows other than that, and that's why.
But they've all been They've all had an increase in ratings as they've gone on. They've all got more and more popular. When 30 Rock started, they thought it was going to get cancelled after its first season, but it kept getting more and more popular, and now it's getting like really good numbers. I think
Parks and Rec, for the as critically acclaimed as it is, it's not been getting the rating, the type of ratings that you would hope for. And
no.
I mean that's why NBC is going to drop it, and that's why we're going to get a bunch of new shitty shows, and NBC is going to go fuck themselves in the ass every day, and they can suck the biggest, fattest, hairiest, most girthy dick that has ever been on this planet. That needs to go in their mouth and in their ass continuously for the next 20 years.
Big sweaty veiny.
They're canceling 3 great shows, and hopefully a network picks them up. But I don't know. It's just I was hoping we could do this last night because I was more mad last night. But
I think I'm not so upset about 30 Rock being over, because it's once it has its next season, it'll be 7, and that's enough. 7 seasons is a good number, and it's understandable because the cast is starting to get a little bit restless. Alec Baldwin has talked about leaving a couple of times, and NBC are thinking, well, if it keeps going, it's just going to get it's just going to sort of spiral apart, and everyone's going to
Seven
stop watching
seasons
it
is
like
a
The
lot.
Office. Yeah, 7 seasons is a good number, but Community and
The
Parks
Office still
don't
probably. I think The
deserve
Office
to
still
be
gets better
cancelled.
ratings. It still gets better ratings. The Office
Yeah.
than anything Park or Community. I mean, if I would, at least give Parks a full final season. I mean, you watched the finale, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
With the spoilers that Leslie wins the election. I'm not exactly sure what direction the show is going to go and how much longer it really can go on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't want like a news radio final season where everyone's mourning, but I do want a full final season at least, if that's the fate that we have to deal with.
The finale set up a couple of interesting plot points for season 5.
I think this is by the way, I think this is a good transition into Parks, which we'll start off first because we don't need to spend the whole show talking about this whole NBC bullshit because we will spend the whole show doing it. So, let's move into Parks.
Yeah, the season, we got 2 episodes. We got last week's episode about the what was the one after the debate? What was it again? I can't fucking remember now.
Yeah, the last 2 episodes of the season, we got Leslie going to Nick Newport's funeral, pulling up to the wake or with the mourning area with a bus with a huge picture of her face on it, which is a political disaster. And the whole cast, including Ben, of course, maneuvers their way out of that, and only does what's his name? Jimmy.
Who?
The guy she's running against. Can't remember Paul
Bobby
Rudd's character.
Newport.
Bobby Newport. And only out of kindness of Bobby Newport's heart does that situation become rectified. And then, of course, you have the season finale, in which the elections, or the results of the election, are figured out, and we find out that Leslie wins in a very, very close vote. It was originally thought to have been given to Bobby Newport with a span of 21 votes, but recount was rewarded, and Leslie won by that same margin. What do you think we're going to see in season 5?
Well, one of the things that was kind of, I mean, I love the season finale, but one of the things that was kind of sort of pushed to the side a little bit too much for me was the Andy and April subplot of her, deleting the files off the computer. It was funny, but it was kind of not really. It didn't really fit in with the rest of the episode all that well.
You thought it was pushed to the side much? Well, if you say it like that, it means like you thought it should have had more time. Yeah,
well, it should have either had more time or no time. I think it was kind of in the little bit of grey area. It was enjoyable, but it set up a nice little plot point for season 5 of Andy gonna obviously try and become a cop now, which I can see leading to some hilarious situations.
What if Andy becomes really ultra serious when he becomes a cop and arrests?
Becomes Burt Macklin 24/7.
He arrests Anne and Tom for some recreational marijuana usage in his home, and the whole 5th season becomes some sort of Seinfeld-esque finale where they all end up in jail. That'd be pretty cool.
And also obviously Ben gonna be moving to DC now, and Leslie gonna be doing city council. Those are all things that we can see unfolding in season 5.
I don't get what that's going to do with the show. How the main cast can interact together now. If that Leslie's won, how's this going to work?
Well, she still works in city council. It still operates out of city hall, so they're still going to work in the same building, and they're still all going to be friends with each other still. So it'll still
I know, but still
the dynamic will still work.
Who's gonna become the head of or who's going to take Leslie's job?
Well, that's it. Yeah, that's one of the things we have to wait and see. I'm assuming that there's going to be some sort of break, in terms of show time, the amount of time that's passed in the show's world between season 4 and season 5. So it's going to sort of, or the new situations or the new status quo is already going to be upon us by the time the show starts.
Yeah, that'll probably happen. But what about Anne becoming the new Leslie? Do you think that'd work?
Well, she works in the health department. It doesn't work.
It doesn't matter. She's going to become the new Leslie.
She can't be the Parks and Rec. You mean Parks and Rec deputy director?
Sure she can.
No, she can't. That's not
She's
how
going
it
to get
works.
promoted by Chris. She's going to get promoted by Chris on Ron's recommendation. It'll work, trust me.
I don't see that.
And then she's gonna date Ben, and she's gonna really like waffles, and like she's gonna get extra whipped cream.
Dye her hair blonde.
What's gonna happen is season 4 is gonna be a complete reenactment of season 1 plus 14 episodes of season 2, just with Anne playing every single part that Leslie plays and some random character being Anne.
Someone needs a pit filled in, and they'll come to Anne about it. And the circle will be complete.
It'll be Tom needs a pit filled in his heart.
Yeah.
By Donna, who is the new Anne, and Jerry's the new Donna, and Chris Farley's corpse is the new Jerry.
And then way down in the hole, Tom Waits plays over the final montage. When you walk through the garden,
gotta watch your back. I beg your pardon. Walk the straight and narrow track.
But yeah, the episode before, episode 21, had some really nice little moments with Leslie and Ben, and it's kind of set up the season 5 tension between the two of them. It's going to be one of the main emotional threads of the season.
It really just pisses me off that this is going to be the last season.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more the show could do with more episodes.
I mean, I don't want it to become like The Office and have like 12 seasons, and like Amy Poehler leaves in like season 8 and all this dumb shit. I don't want that to happen either. But at least like 2 more series or two more seasons. Come on, let's do it. Come on, NBC.
Maybe we should do a campaign where we send in stuff to them, like they did with that one show. They sent stuff in to the network.
That one show was pretty good. Yeah,
I can't remember what it was.
That show. I sent stuff in.
Shut up.
Any other thoughts you have on the season finale of Parks and Recreation?
Ron and Leslie's main scene in the council chamber got me all welled up. I love when Ron gets all emotional with Leslie. They've got such a great relationship, those two, and Ron being such a great person.
Yeah, he still caught his tongue when he said when he tried to tell her that he cared.
Yeah,
and I really liked his scene with Ben about status quo and it not changing, and how he's driven the same car since 1991. And he's used the same wooden brush for 30 years or whatever.
That made me think he must have a shitload of money, because he's running a government department and he's got like no expenditure at all. He doesn't have any. Obviously doesn't have a home loan or a car loan or anything like that. He's got a shitload of money.
He's always buying steaks and whiskeys. So
yeah,
but I would assume he's pretty well off. And, he gave
all that gold buried all over town.
He gave Andy the money for his class. And he offered the guy. He offered Mike O'Malley $10,000 for the vans, and
Yeah, he's got money to throw around.
He's got money to throw around. Probably more so than Tom. He should treat himself one of these days.
I'd love to see Ron join Tom and Donna on a treat yourself trip in season 5. That would be amazing.
Because it would end up at some skeevy bar with a half cooked steak and some whiskey,
a breakfast
and
menu,
dirty glass, and a bunch of bacon.
Anyway, we should move on to another show. We should probably move on to Girls next.
I agree.
So this latest Girls episode 4, is the kind of a different turn for the show to take. It's the first episode of the series not directed by the lead actor and writer Lena Dunham, and it's also the first episode where we see all 4 characters going off and having their own little private sort of experiences, not as a group or in twos and threes and stuff.
I thought this was the best episode of the season. I saw some conflicting opinions all over the internet, and a few friends of mine. I just thought it was the one that was the most focused, and overall as an episode, it really locked me in, and I didn't feel antsy at all watching it, because sometimes I tend to have a short attention span, and I'll pause for a second and refresh a web page. This one I was pretty enthralled the entire way through, even though it did seem more like a standard episode of a standard sitcom. But this was my favorite episode of the season so far.
I think it's probably my second favorite. I think the one before is my favorite so far. But the season, I mean, I was getting ready to say that it's probably the worst episode of the season so far until the final scene, second final scene between Hannah and Adam, which was a really nice little moment. And then the last scene was just like expertly
that might
awkward.
even be, sorry. Yeah, the last scene, of course, was incredible, and we're gonna definitely, Marnie and Charlie, we're gonna have to see where that goes. I mean, he's pretty pissed off.
Just as a side note, by the way, the dude that's the bongo player in Charlie's Bunny Rabbit Quotes band is
his name is Ray.
He was in the movie Tiny Furniture, the Leonard Dunham movie. Yeah. He was one of our love interests in that movie. Anyway, carry on. That was just a little side note because I did watch it. By the way, I watched that movie.
Scene between Hannah and Adam. One of the very few, true emotional scenes in the episode or in the show's history so far. 4 episodes in, and rang very true to me. And I don't know. It was just written really well, and. But I was kind of disappointed that all it took for her to jump back into his arms was a little tug on her shirt, and she's definitely prone to some acts of self-destruction.
He sets off this kind of primal urge because he's a sexy dude.
She doesn't. I mean, she knows what's good for her, but she's not smart enough to go for it quite yet, and I think that's a theme in all the characters' lives, but especially Hannah.
Yeah, they know what they want, but they don't want to. They're afraid of leaving the sort of the comfortable nature of the status quo, which is true. Not exactly, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's not exactly that they know what they want. It's they know what they don't want, and they know what they're looking for.
Yeah,
in some ways of their life, and Hannah obviously wants a guy. Who's going to give her some attention, who's going to be there some of the time, but she also enjoys the challenge that Adam gives her. And, his distant nature. Of course, anybody that, that you talk to, that you may have feelings for, or whatever, that you're attracted to, and they're not really, pulling the same weight that you are, you're going to want to get them, because they don't want you as much as you perceive that they do. Or you perceive that they don't want you. And that's basic human instinct, just like Mad Men in this season. When Pete asked Don, what client he would like to have the most, but Don says American Airlines, and Pete asks him why, and Don says because they turned us down.
Yeah.
So, that's a big part of Hannah and Adam's relationship.
Yeah, it's a good testament to the show that we can spot that's so realistic. How do you feel about Lena Dunham on the Colbert Report saying that she's a virgin?
That was pretty surprising to me. She is in her mid-20s.
Do you think it's true?
I don't really have any reason to believe that it isn't. I mean, yeah, I guess I believe her. I mean, what am I going to, I've never seen her have sex. The closest I've seen her to having sex is on this television show, and, penetration is implied. So, I don't know. It's surprising because in the the world we live in now, when you reach the age of 24, male or female, if you're a virgin, it's weird. And she seemed like the type of parents she has. She grew up in a liberal household, and you would think that that would lead her to have a different philosophy over other girls who are age 24 and virgins. Maybe she's saving herself. I don't know.
Lena Dunham is Tina Fey 20 years ago, and Hannah is Liz Lemon 20 years ago. Because the character and also Tina Fey herself didn't lose her virginity until she was 24 when she met her husband.
Can you please cut that out of the episode?
Why? Don't you think that's true, though, that she's a little bit like Liz Lemon 20 years ago? She's got the same sort of...
Sure, I was just being a dick, because that's what I do. Anyway, like you were saying, the last scene of the episode where Hannah, Jessa, Shoshana, and Marnie are all watching Charlie and Ray's band perform, they're not even really a band. They're really bad.
worst band I've ever seen in my whole life. It's so shit.
Anyway, they're performing these stupid songs. The guy, he's drumming on his legs or on a bongo, and Charlie's playing the guitar and singing. And the last song is called Hannah's Diary. And a scene earlier in the episode, Ray is scrunging around the house trying to find things that he normally wouldn't have access to because the girls aren't home. And he stumbles upon Hannah's diary, and he reads it. And he finds something that shocks him, and he tries hiding it from Charlie, who tickles him and tries to get him to, to tell him what it is. And then, on the last scene of the episode, when he performs a song called Hannah's Diary with lyrics from what she wrote about his relationship with Marnie, we figure out that he did tell him, and it wasn't about about Hannah's HPV, which I figured it wasn't. But Charlie and Marnie's relationship and the dysfunctionality of it was clearly evident to Hannah, and now it's clearly evident to both Charlie and Marnie that it was evident. And that is something that's going to probably be a pretty big part of the next episode.
I love how Marnie gets pissed off at Hannah for it, like as if it's her fault that he found something that was supposed to be private and no one else was meant to read.
Yeah, but who are you going to get? Who are you going to get mad at? It's not really any of her business. I mean, those she was talking about their relationship pretty explicitly and pretty candidly, and it's fine to do that with the other person when they realize the situation, but to talk about that in your diary, and she was just mad. I'm sure she
just wanted to react to somebody. Hannah. Yeah. Still, it's good to see one of the things that we can expect is going to be a running plot point through the series. Otherwise, the series feels like it's kind of meandering and not really going anywhere at all.
Well, I don't think the series will ever really have a central plot, which I don't really mind. I mean, I don't mind watching a show each week that, things are different, and I don't have to expect Hannah's pregnancy or Jess's marriage or whatever stupid shit that could happen have to be an underlying plot point. I don't really need that.
Yeah.
And the show's writing could be strong enough to have, separate plots each week that are interesting, and the characters play off themselves, and the humor will derive from that.
Yeah.
What do you think? We talk about Veep.
Yep. Probably the funniest episode of the series so far for me, I think, this one.
The funny thing about this latest episode of Veep, I've been reading from a lot of people that it's the funniest and best episode. I only laughed one time, which isn't exactly a bad thing, and it doesn't mean that the episode wasn't funny, which it was. But I only laughed one time.
I'm going to go ahead and guess that you laughed when her daughter said that he has a rapist face, and he said that he gets AIDS consensually. Was that the moment?
That wasn't the moment, but it was during that scene. I don't exactly remember what was said, but I did laugh. I forget exactly what it was said, but it was during that scene when they're all standing together in that room. But Jonah rules.
Yeah. He's probably my favourite comedy character in the whole show. It's a show that's kind of a little bit... It's got its main influence, which is the thick of it, which is the show that it's based on. But I think it's got a nice bit of Arrested Development feel to it as well. This kind of pseudo-documentary style, and also combined where there's a lot of scenes where you get something goes bad and then it just sort of piles up and piles up and piles up, like gets worse and worse, like from all angles it just keeps getting worse. Like it's a really nice thing to see in a modern comedy show.
One thing that has happened in every single episode of Veep so far is that Selena starts out each episode wanting to do something small, and then throughout the episode her efforts get shit on, and she has to deal with increasing problems that derive from that. And that's been the single theme of every episode, that she tries to do something and then it goes bad. Like you were saying, themes.
Yeah. But it's the show's going well, and I'm looking forward to seeing more of it. But yeah, there's a couple of currents running through this episode. You've got the Clean Jobs Task Force thing, which is causing more and more stress, and also on top of that, he got piled on with the visit from her daughter, which is causing even more stress. It's one extra thing to think about, and it's also obviously something that's important to her, but she still has other priorities in her life right now.
Yeah, she doesn't relate obviously does not relate at all to her daughter, and that was a the main underlying theme of the episode is that she's trying to be a mom to her daughter, and she doesn't understand her daughter at all. And she's trying, she's changing the name of the hurricane. She's trying not to tell everybody that she's really self-centered, and the whole scene when she drags her daughter into the closet and there's all the stuff that they had to take down, the Time magazine cover and all the other pictures of her which are in the room in the closet that she's talking to her daughter about how she's not self-centered. That was quite humorous.
I think it's pretty it's pretty funny and sort of self-centered of her that she would immediately think that the fact that there's a hurricane called Selena, that everyone's going to associate it with her. Like, how often do you think about, Hurricane Katrina? That makes me think that Katrina from Katrina and the Waves is such a bitch or whatever. Like, you don't make that sort of association immediately, but because
there's a girl I know named Katrina, and people started calling her Hurricane after that. So maybe you're wrong, Dave. Maybe you're wrong.
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's a lot of times there's a hurricane and you don't. I mean, maybe it's just me, but I don't immediately associate it with real people. But she's definitely
Aren't
still
they called
self-centered.
typhoons on your side of the world?
Cyclones,
typhoons. Why don't you just call them hurricanes?
Well, it's a different thing. That's why.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. It goes the other way.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does. Rotation of the storm. It moves in anti-clockwise.
Hey, Andy! I got something I want to report to you.
That's not how the scene goes at all.
I know, but he calls the kid and asks him if
Mr. Prime Minister,
Mr.
Andy. That's how it goes.
Isn't he drinking a PBR or something?
No, he's drinking the Fosters.
No, he's drinking a Foster's.
Everyone drinks Fosters in that episode, even though no one else drinks Fosters.
What's funny, when Brad R came here last year, he told me he'd never had a Foster's. Then we got him one, and he enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I'd never had one in this country. I had them before in England because it was cheap and widely available, but I've never had one here.
Available?
Yeah.
Available. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, what? What's wrong with that?
I don't know. Just there's a lot of things I don't like about you.
The way you don't like the way that I use the word available?
I didn't like it.
Why not?
Not available. You said available. Available. Like you're trying to avail me. So we don't have to get into a whole discussion about pronunciation of words because this isn't 4 episodes ago. But you are a faggot, and the word Zed, it's Z, it's not Zed, as you know. And what do you think about this week's episode of Game of Thrones?
So yeah, there's a few things happening in this episode. The main one that caught my eye was the fact that the general public has come into the play more. Mostly related to Joffrey and how they're not a big fan, unsurprisingly.
Yeah, the scene where Joffrey and Tyrion and Sansa and the Hound are matriculating their way through the crowd and being attacked, and cow shit's getting thrown in Joffrey's face, and Sansa's getting raped, and that was just another representation of how brutal Westeros is getting right now with the whole war, and people are getting their legs and arms ripped off, and Joffrey's getting slapped again. And, the Hound is disemboweling people, and that was pretty fucked up.
Every time the Tyrion puts Joffrey in his place, it makes me cheer. It's always fun to see, and it's good to see Tyrion, another side of Tyrion. With regards to Sansa, like he said that it's important to keep her safe because then it's a bargaining chip and they can get Jaime back. But I think that's been his leverage the entire time. But I think he still does. Actually, she's a child, so he's not a heartless bastard. He is the smartest political one. Him and his father are the smartest bad guys on the show, if you want to say that. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to hopefully seeing a one-on-one scene between Tyrion and Sansa, because I think it would be really good to see that. But it's interesting to think what the perfect end game situation for Tyrion would be, because he's obviously he knows that Joffrey doesn't really have a proper claim to the throne, and if it came down to it, he'd be hard pressed to side with him.
Well, the end game for Tyrion is now he's playing it out. He knows he's not the actual hand of the king, and he's just trying to make things good while he can, and trying to not make the entire city of King's Landing want to kill him and his sister and his his non-brother. Well, actually, it is his brother.
Who? Jaime?
Joffrey.
Joffrey's not his brother. Joffrey's his nephew.
He's a Lannister. Joffrey's a Lannister.
Yeah.
He's his brother.
I wonder if
he's not Joffrey Baratheon.
Yes, he is by name. But anyway, I wonder if
by name, but not by blood.
No, it doesn't change the fact that he's not his nephew because Cersei's still his mother.
Yes, his brother. Tyrion and Joffrey are brothers.
So Tywin's his grandfather and his father.
By name and blood, yes.
Tywin's relationship with King's Landing is not one that we've seen much of, but it's interesting to think what it might be because he'd obviously be being kept up to date with everything that's happening, but we haven't really heard his opinion on it much.
Well, yeah, he is fighting the war, so I'm not sure when and if Tywin will come to King's Landing to be the actual hand of the king. We haven't read the books.
I kind of forgot about it, but Tywin, they did mention it before, but Tywin was actually hand of the king for Aerys Targaryen, the king before Robert. So he obviously is happy now that he's the hand of the king again. After 18 years or whatever.
The subplot with Jon Snow and the Rangers of the Night's Watch has finally started to pick up some steam. They finally ran into some wildlings, a very pretty one in particular.
Have we seen her before? I recognise her from somewhere. Maybe I've seen her in another show.
We haven't seen her before. Anyway, Jon can't find himself able to behead this beautiful woman, so she escapes and she runs away, and he deftly chases and catches her again. And they are forced to cuddle very close to escape the night's cold. And you see Grit rubbing up against Jon's dick, and she's loving it. And they're going to have really sweaty and graphic sex in the next episode.
Yeah, you know what? She hasn't been in it before. You're right. I recognise her because she was in Downton Abbey. That's where I've seen her from. But yeah, it's,
every actor you've ever seen in any television show has been in the one that you've seen them in.
What?
Exactly. Go ahead.
Yeah, but it's nice to see that story moving along, and because it was kind of the story with Jon and the story with Daenerys are kind of ones that have been isolated from the rest of what's happening. Like you kind of can't see how it's relevant with regards to everything else that's going on in the world, but they're becoming a little bit more relevant now as the show progresses to this stage.
Well, they weren't relevant because they're in different parts of the world, and the main characters, the Starks, the Lannisters, and everyone else, they're actually they're fighting each other. And then you've got Jon Snow, and they're out there trying to find Jon's what is it, his cousin? No, what is it, his uncle? Yeah, it's his uncle. Trying to find his uncle, and then they find the wildlings, and they're trying to fuck them niggas up. And then you got Daenerys, who's in a different part of the world altogether, trying to get ships to come over there to reclaim her rightful birthright. And everyone's all going for the same deal, but the ones Jon and Daenerys are in different parts of the world, and their conflicts haven't brushed up against everyone else's, and that's why that they seem like they're outliers.
Yeah, they're going to be soon, though. They're going to be soon, though, that's for sure. At least we think, anyway.
Of course, the big scene in this episode, the opening scene of this episode, is Theon marching into Winterfell and taking it over like the little fucking cunt punk that he is, and forcing Bran to give up Winterfell, and Theon is the new Lord of Winterfell, and he's going to behead double-bearded guy, and he's thinking that beard braids. He's going to he thinks that that since he's a true Greyjoy, that he's going to fuck over Robb and the family that raised him and the town that raised him, just for a little bit of his own glory. which is pretty fucked up.
I think it was a shame that we didn't, that Osha didn't execute or murder, rather, Theon right there and then. She could have done. And I would have liked her to, but she didn't, so never mind. But
yeah, I was thinking that. Also, she's got a pretty decent body under there.
Yeah, Natalia Tina from Harry Potter fame. But she's, I think it's good that kind of good that she didn't, because we're going to get to see Rob do it, hopefully, which is going to be even more enjoyable.
That was one of my favorite scenes of the episode, is Rob absolutely flipping out and wanting Theon brought alive so that he can take his head. Because Rob's a fucking badass, and Theon would never. Theon doesn't have the balls, the smarts, or the charisma that Rob has. So it's going to be funny to see if what happens with that.
I'm just trying to think. Was the bit where Rob's talking to this girl and then Catelyn comes back? Was that in this episode?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, that was a great scene, because you see Rob as this sort of charismatic leader of men, and playing a player with all the women, and then his mum comes home and she puts him down to size.
He hasn't really even had the chance to be to get with any girls. So he sees an obviously very beautiful woman, and his dick gets hard. But as Catelyn reminded him, he's promised to another, so he can't follow his heart.
Do we know who that is? Have we heard? I can't remember.
What her name is?
The girl that Rob's. Her
name's Talia or something.
I don't remember it being mentioned. It probably has been, though. It's been a long time since I watched season 1. So.
He introduced her. He said it was Lady Talia or something like that. I forget exactly what her name was.
No. The girl that he is promised to. Rob's promised to.
Yeah. He's supposed to marry. He's supposed to marry one of. Who was it? Who was he supposed to marry? Wasn't he supposed to marry one of the? No, it was that one fucking weird guy who has all those daughters. I forget who that guy was. He's supposed to marry one of his daughters. Remember when Catelyn goes and he's like, I think she tries to get him to open the gate so that they may pass through. And he has to marry one of their daughters. The pilot? You mean in the premiere of season 2? I think it's in the premiere of season 2.
I thought it was in season 1 pilot.
No, because they're moving their armies through.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can't remember now. I got such a shit memory.
Could be wrong. Let's talk about Sally in Littlefinger's scene when Littlefinger and Sally are at the ball, and Littlefinger gets a blowjob from the French woman and Lost, and she's talking about the others and the boat, and 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42.
And Clay Davis walks in on the blowjob.
And Clay Davis walks in, and Tony dives in front of Paulie to get him away from the shot, but Homer still eats his donut anyway.
I love that show.
It's a good show. The Sopranos on Lost Island.
On HBC Ox.
Arya in this episode has another great scene with Tywin. When Tywin is meeting with Littlefinger about his strategies, and she's trying to avoid Littlefinger's gaze, and it seems like he notices her, but he steals a note on the table that seems to contain some strategies, and she runs away and reads it, and on her way to the armory, she is accosted by a guard or a knight or whatever, and he figures her out, so she runs away. And she asks, "What's his dick?" to kill him real quick.
Yeah.
And he's got a funny smirk. Jaquen or whatever his name is. Jaquen. I don't know.
Yeah.
Jaquen or whatever his name is. He kills him really quick, and that guy's a beast. So it's pretty cool.
I think it's interesting to see that Littlefinger spotted that who she was, but he didn't immediately sort of blurt it out like not a smart person would. He's going to sort of hold on to the info and use it later at some point.
Yeah, when I was watching, I figured that if he did see her, he wouldn't say anything, because that's the kind of character he is. He'd be like, "Oh, okay," and then right after he saw her, he mentioned Robb Stark and the daughters and all that. The main thing is that Catelyn didn't know, they didn't know where Arya was, and now Littlefinger does, so that helps him. Yeah,
he's going to use that at some point. So yeah, we've also got a new episode of Mad Men this week, episode 8, Lazy Lazarus, wherein the AMC network spends $250,000 on a Beatles song.
the usage of "Tomorrow Never Knows" by the Beatles off the incredible album Revolver is the first recorded usage of an actual Beatles song in a television show or movie.
Really?
And, yes.
Wow.
And that's a big deal for the show.
They kind of made a little technical error because Tomorrow Never Knows is obviously the last song on Revolver, but I'm pretty sure when Don puts the needle down, he puts it on at the beginning of the record.
He puts it on the middle of the record, which I think is what is the middle of the record? One of the songs in the middle. It's like in the 6th track or something. He doesn't put it in the last one. And I think when Megan hands it to him and says start with this one, I think she also points to like towards the middle of the album. I think that's what it looks like at my first glance. I haven't watched it twice.
Yeah. Because obviously it's a record, it's going to be side B, and halfway through side B is something like Dr. Robert or something like that. But anyway, it's just a technical problem.
Yeah. Anyway, in this episode, we've got Pete Campbell having sex with Rory Gilmore, who is Howard, his friend on the train's wife. And, Rory Gilmore's pretty hot. I don't really like her in this episode. You don't know who Rory Gilmore is?
No.
It's a classic American sitcom called The Gilmore Girls.
Oh, okay. And, she's the daughter, is she?
She's the daughter.
Yeah, I never watched it.
They were known for this type of this really really deep bond that the mother and daughter had, and the way they talked was very unrealistic and very quick,
fast. Yeah,
and really fast. And they had just they had a good relationship.
But there was one scene. There's been a few references to Pete maybe having a downward spiral and contemplating suicide throughout this episode and the one before, and probably in the rest of the season if we think about it and look back on it. But there was a little moment where Don opens the elevator and the elevator's not there, and it's just the elevator shaft. That's obviously I think it's going to probably be a little bit of foreshadowing for something.
Well, that was very un-Mad Men-like with its completely slapping your face with what it meant. But as regards to Pete committing suicide or thinking about it, I'm not exactly sure that he's thinking about killing himself. I'm thinking that he's contemplating the fact that his life could end at any moment and that it's short, and that his unhappiness is deriving itself from that.
It seemed a little odd to me that if Don Draper is a real person and not as a character in this TV show, why he didn't sort of go tell someone from maintenance or whatever that the elevator door's opening when there's no elevator there.
Maybe he did, but we didn't see that, obviously. I don't think that would be worth one of the 48 minutes that Don's going to tell a black dude that the elevator ain't working.
Maybe. Still, it's interesting to see that they didn't show it, because it leaves it open to the fact that it could happen again, maybe.
I suppose that would be pretty cool in the season 5 finale, that Don's like, hey, and he walks in there with Megan and they all fall, and Pete's like, what happened? And he jumps in after him and he falls, and Roger laughs, and he becomes the new creative head, and Peggy and Roger have lots of sex, and it's like Olsen, Draper, Price, and Draper's name is still there out of remembrance, and Lane Price kills himself by jumping down the elevator shaft, and Betty falls down the stairs and she dies, and Sally grows up to be like 35 years old and kills herself by jumping down an elevator shaft. That would be pretty good theme. And then Gene kills himself by jumping down an elevator shaft,
and then it pops up at the end.
It's all
directed by M. Night Shyamalan.
The bodies have never been cleaned out of the elevator shaft because they don't want to do it. And since the bodies never get cleaned in the aspect of the show, somebody like you would believe that it hasn't happened just because it hasn't happened on screen. So we're just going to have a huge pile of bodies, and that's the thematic nature of the intro. And the person actually falling out of the building in the intro is going to end up being Ginsberg.
Directed by M. Night Shyamalan.
Dude, what if the series finale of Mad Men, if I saw that directed by M. Night Shyamalan, I would turn it off. I wouldn't watch it. I would just read about the shit that happened in it. Because, Don would turn out to have, like, this terminal cancer that turns his arms into tree limbs, and his tree limb arms would be, like, growing money, and that's why he's rich. And then, like, Harry would come and make a joke about it in front of Megan, and she would cry.
Cooper's been dead the whole time.
Yep.
Cooper was a ghost.
When you go back and watch the show, like there's "I see dead people" like after every line, just really low in the mix. Anyway, Pete's affair, one of many that he's had, is a main part of this episode, and you see Pete jumping into the relationship with 2 feet, and he's becoming very infatuated and almost falling in love with this girl that he can't have, and he knows that he can't have. And what did you think about that?
I think it was good. It was it obviously annoyed me because Pete's got this great life at home, which he doesn't really want to get involved with. Beyond just going home to sleep every now and then. I don't really understand his reasoning behind it, and I think that sort of is, it helps you understand why people don't like Pete, because he does things that are irrational and you can't put a reason to.
Don did all those things too, but the main difference in Trudy and Betty is that Trudy isn't a frigid bitch, and and
a horrible person,
But going back to the when the elevator shaft, the bottom is dropping out on Don specifically because Megan's quitting her job, and he can't understand. He can't wrap his mind around the fact that Megan isn't happy being good at what he is good at, and Peggy can't understand it either, because to Peggy and Don, what they have, the type of job that they have, and being good at it is like a gigantic, huge deal, and it's like the most important thing in their lives. And the fact that Megan wants to be something else and want to have more, that kind of just fucks with them a little bit, because like everybody talks about having dreams, and people are like, yeah, you should follow your dreams, that's a good thing, but people, they say it, but they don't exactly mean it.
People think that when they have what they want, they can't understand why, if other people also have what you want, they can't understand why they're not happy with it. And for Don and Peggy, it doesn't make any sense to them why someone would be unhappy with having this life that they've worked so hard for.
And having it so naturally and without much effort and so young.
Yeah, exactly.
When Don told Megan what she did at the Heinz meeting, that it took him years to think that way, and she's only been in advertising for months, so he sees so much natural talent in her, and he sees a incredibly bright future in advertising for her, but she doesn't want it, and that just confuses Don in a way that he can't exactly explain. It's
it also kind of links in with the fact that the social mores and the way society is going by 1966 is changing and sort of passing Don by. He's not really keeping up with it. The music, the way that people are optimistic and hopeful about the future, and hopeful about the idea that their dreams that they have could be fulfilled. Don, it doesn't understand that as much as he wishes he could, because obviously it would affect his job a lot to be able to tap into that mindset.
Every day that passes, Don becomes less connected with the popular society and with the people that are younger than him, and I think that is expressed pretty well when Megan asks him to listen to the Beatles, and he puts on the trippiest song on the album, sits down with his drink and listens to it, and he can't even get through half of the song. And he just doesn't get it, and the world is passing him by very quickly, as articulated very obviously in a few episodes ago when he's standing in the office and they're all walking past him. The world is passing him by, and he's becoming an old man.
It's a good, great song for the moment as well. Both because it's so forward thinking and so futuristic, but also because of its title, Tomorrow Never Knows.
If I had $250,000, I would end the podcast with that song.
Exactly. Yeah,
don't we have a fair use time limit?
Yeah, as long as it's less than 30 seconds, I'm pretty sure you can get away with it.
We're gonna do that then.
Okay. Yeah, when that song did come on, because we didn't know what song it was going to be until it started playing, because obviously we knew what it was going to be, the album it was going to be from, and Megan told him to go to one specific song. I was actually, at first, I was a little disappointed that it wasn't one of my more favourite songs from the record, but once it got going and they went through the little montage and then Don turned it off again, it was a really good moment and a perfect choice.
Turn off your mind, relax, and float downstream. It is not Zorbo, it is Brad Art. Something, my daddy is a creep. Jimmy. Jimmy. I really don't want to use a Beatles song at the end of this video because that shit'll be snatched off YouTube so quick, son.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, immediately.
Michael Jackson will show up to my house in his corpse and start smacking me around.
He sold them back to Paul McCartney, didn't he?
He did, didn't he? Well, Paul McCartney will fuck me up too then.
Yeah, I don't understand why Paul McCartney is so litigious. He's got enough money.
Because he's old and he's a knight and he thinks he can do whatever he wants. I think he needs to fucking shove a cunt up his ass. Like you said, using Revolver in that scene, and Tomorrow Never Knows specifically, it was cool because obviously, in 1966, the Beatles, they were the biggest thing at the time, and in a show that is stressing so hard to emulate and show us what it was like to live in those times, a song like that really accentuates the scene really well. And the way that you were talking earlier about how it being representative of the type of people or the way that people were thinking, and if you remember after Revolver, the Beatles were so popular that they were just like, whatever, we can do what we want. And, they started becoming more experimental and probably doing a lot more drugs.
Yeah.
And so the way Revolver, evolved after that album is kind of the way that the culture took, too. I mean, we didn't really talk about the affair as much as I would like. I mean, we didn't really touch on it at all.
What,
you didn't say anything about it? Yeah, with whatever her name was. I forget, Betty or Jimmy.
It's not doing anything for me, that bit. I don't really...
No? I think it's still an important plot point to hit on.
It's probably going to have something, down the line. It's going to move... It's going to move on and it's going to become more relevant. But I don't really... It doesn't really do anything for me, that subplot. Probably because I don't like Pete that much and I don't really care what happens to him.
Well, it's a representation, a physical manifestation of Pete's unhappiness and his desires.
Yeah, it's tapping into that theme that the whole show has, where the American dream's not enough for most people. We talked about that a few weeks ago. And
specifically, I really did not like the performance of the actress. I think her name is Alexis Bledel. I don't know how to say her last name. But it was kind of a paint-by-numbers performance.
Yeah, phoned in a little bit. What it felt like was it felt like a 60s TV show. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a horrible performance, but it stuck out to me as a little bad, especially with a show that has a pretty damn good assortment of cast members, and the people that they get to come on for an episode or two are usually really good.
Yeah.
It's not Game of Thrones epic tier of incredible cast members, but it's still very good. We're gonna wrap this up right now. This episode is dedicated to PlayStation and Sony and the great work they're doing in the United States.
What do you want? Sponsorship? Sony sponsorship or something?
Thank you, Sony, for delivering us nigh on 20 years of highlight performances, and I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see what's going to happen in the future. Sony, my favorite Japanese company.
Yes, well, probably not mine, but anyway, that was a nice weird little outro. Thanks for